When the Sun Darkens, Orbital History and 2040 AD Return of Planet Phoenix by Jason M. Breshears. Read by Kevin Stevens, also known as Grendel Dark. Chapter 7, Orbital Chronology of Planet Phoenix. So it is not only that many eclipses unrecognized by astronomers, as eclipses have occurred, but there are several allusions to intense darknesses that have occurred upon this earth, quite as eclipses occur, but are not referable to any known eclipsing body. Charles Fort, Book of the Damned, 1919 AD. No theory of Earth history should be acceptable without a workable chronology. It has been shown that planet Phoenix maintains a 138-year orbit, and that this orbit accounts for both the 414-year cursed Earth periods and 552-year Phoenix cycles, as well as providing the chronologist with year 1 of the 6,000-year timeline of the curse of man, and his exile until the return of the chief cornerstone in 6000 Annus Mundi, 2106 AD, at Armageddon. The Phoenix history spans back 414 years before year 1 to a pre-Adamic cataclysm that ended Earth before Eden. It must be admitted that several times throughout history, when Phoenix entered the inner system, Earth was not always in the same place in its journey around the Sun. Therefore, Phoenix did not transit, and without a transit, it could not occult the Sun. Nor could Phoenix be seen in the daytime, or when the skies were overcast. If Earth was on the opposite side of the Sun, it could not be viewed either. Of course, there have been sightings of Phoenix lost to history, the records of the ancients not preserved, as well as multitudes of legends and lore that are not attached to any certain date. But the following timeline of Phoenix orbits, despite its incompleteness, is sufficient enough to demonstrate that Phoenix exists, was feared by our predecessors, has been seen in modern times, and will return with devastating effect very soon. In fact, over 1 billion people on Earth today will still be alive to witness and experience this incredible phenomenon. 4309 BC, minus 4:14 a.m. Phoenix nearly collides into Earth, and the pre-Adamic world is destroyed. This is one cursed Earth period before year 1 Annus Mundi, 3895 BC, and 2070 years, 14 times 5, before the Great Flood of 2239 BC, 1656 AM, 138 years, 1656 months. 4171 BC, minus 276 AM. Phoenix crossed ecliptic in inner system, no records, 138 years. 4033 BC, minus 38 AM. Phoenix crossed ecliptic in inner system, no records, 138 years. 3895 BC, 1 AM. Phoenix seen as fiery flaming sword in year 1 of man's banishment from Eden, starting 6,000-year timeline until man's redemption in 2106 AD. This is 1,656 years, 414 times 4, before the flood in 2239 BC, 1656 AM, 138 years. 3757 BC, 138 AM. Phoenix crossed ecliptic in inner system, no records, 138 years. 3619 BC, 276 AM. Phoenix crossed ecliptic in inner system, no records, 138 years. 3481 BC, 4:14 AM. Phoenix crossed ecliptic in inner system, no records. First cursed Earth period of 414 years complete, 138 years. 3343 BC, 5:52 AM. Phoenix crossed ecliptic in inner system, no records. First Phoenix cycle of 552 years complete, 138 years. 3205 BC, 690 AM. Phoenix crossed ecliptic in inner system. This was the 1080th year of Enoch's reign over the Sethites, renowned chronologist. A multitude of traditions connect Enoch, Pa-Hanok, to the story of the phoenix. Enochian texts assert that Enoch was learned in all the secrets of astronomy. 138 years. 3067 BC, 8:28 a.m. Phoenix crossed ecliptic in inner system. This ends the 140th year of Enoch's reign before the flood. This is also the completion of 2 cursed earth periods and the exact midpoint between Eden and the flood. 138 years. 2929 BC, 9:66 a.m. Phoenix crossed ecliptic in inner system. This begins a 2070-year, 414 times 5 timeline to 859 BC, which, in the Peruvian chronology, was the year of the 32nd king of Cusco. Historian Montesinos recorded that the Peruvian text spanned back 2,070 years to begin at this time. In 859 BC, the Assyrian king Shalmaneser III ascended the throne who, according to Assyrian reliefs and seals, expected the return of Phoenix in that year. Great Pyramid under construction. 138 years. 2791 BC, 1104 a.m. Phoenix crossed ecliptic in inner system. No records. This is completion of second Phoenix cycle of 552 years. 138 years. 2653 BC, 1242 a.m. Phoenix crossed ecliptic in inner system. No records. This is completion of third cursed earth period. 138 years. 2515 BC, 1380 a.m. Phoenix crossed ecliptic in inner system. No records. 138 years. 2377 BC, 1518 a.m. Phoenix crossed ecliptic in inner system. No records. 138 years. 2239 BC, 1656 a.m. Phoenix crossed ecliptic 7 days before the deluge and transited, darkening the sun. This began the fracturing of Phoenix. Full account of the flood is given in Anunnaki Homeworld. This is completion of 3 Phoenix cycles and 4 cursed earth periods from year 1, 3895 BC, being 552 times 3 and 414 times 4. This is the first time these systems synchronized in history. Flood was 2070 years, 414 times 5, after the ruination of the pre-Adamic world in 4309 BC. This year is the exact midpoint in the age of the Phoenix. Counting 1,656 years back to Eden and 1,656 years forward to the sun darkening of 583 BC, 138 years. 2101 BC, 1794 a.m. Phoenix crossed ecliptic in inner system. No records. 138 years. 1963 BC, 1932 a.m. Phoenix crossed ecliptic in inner system. No records. 138 years. 1825 BC, 2070 a.m. Phoenix crossed ecliptic in inner system. No direct records. This was 2,070 years, 414 times 5, after Eden, and was Abraham's 12th year translating the Giza text from off the surfaces of the Great Pyramid. This project is detailed in Lost Scriptures of Giza and Chronicon. The Great Pyramid and Sphinx site was built to commemorate mankind's fall from paradise and the promise of his redemption by the return of the chief cornerstone, the missing apex stone the pyramid was supposed to support. The fall transpired in 3895 BC and was immediately followed by the appearance of Phoenix as a fiery flaming sword, ancient description of a cometary body. The Great Pyramid was finished in 2815 BC, 1080 AM, requiring 90 years to complete, and was started by the Sethites in 2905 BC, 990 AM. Exactly 1,080 years later, in 1825 BC, Abraham was teaching the learned of many civilizations the knowledge of astronomy preserved by the ancients, even information on Phoenix. This may be because Phoenix could have been seen distantly in this year, 138 years. 1687 BC, 2208 AM. Phoenix crossed the ecliptic and transited, darkening the sun and causing global earthquakes that felled many megalithic cities, scattering the 5 armies of Canaan and Amorites that thought to kill off Jacob and his sons after Shechem raped their sister Dinah. Stonehenge III was constructed after quaking damaged the site. This is the completion of the 4th Phoenix cycle of 552 years from Eden in 3895 BC, 1 Phoenix cycle after the deluge in 2239 BC, 138 years. 1549 BC, 2346 AM. Phoenix crossed ecliptic in inner system, no records. Previously, fractured regions of the wandering planet's frozen surface broke away at perihelion into a comet group. 138 years. 1411 BC, 2484 AM. Phoenix crossed ecliptic too close to the sun or during heightened solar flare activity, and glacier to mountain-sized fractures broke off the surface of the dead planet, creating the Joshua Comet Group in 1549 BC. Now, as Phoenix passed through inner system, it had a hundreds of millions of miles-long detritus train 4 years behind it that entered the inner system in 1407 BC, and provided the background for one of the most unusual biblical stories, as will be seen in the chapter on the Joshua Comet Group. This year of 1411 BC is 2,484 years, 414 times 6, Annus Mundi, or from Eden in 3895 BC, the 2,484-year period noted by the astronomer Aristarchus as the cycle for cataclysm, 138 years. 1273 BC, 2622 AM. Phoenix crossed ecliptic in inner system but did not transit. Its appearance in the night skies provoked the Assyrians to adopt the winged disk as their seal, and this year began the Assyrian Empire. Assyria annexed the famously ancient city and territories of Babylon, 138 years. 1135 BC, 2760 AM. Phoenix crossed ecliptic in inner system and transited, darkening the sun during the reign of Nebuchadnezzar I of Babylon, whose annals recorded that in this year the sun was darkened by a comet. The appearance of Phoenix prompted a change in kingship over Assyria, for this was the year Tiglath-Pileser I ascended the throne. Olden Irish texts reveal that during the Battle of Moytura, fought in this year between the Danann and the Fomori giants, the sun darkened, and the Chinese left records of the darkening of the sun as well. This completes the 5th Phoenix cycle of 552 years from Eden, 2 cycles after the flood, 138 years. 997 BC, 2898 AM. Phoenix crossed ecliptic in inner system, no records, 138 years. 859 BC, 3036 AM. Phoenix crossed ecliptic in inner system and was seen by the Assyrians, who were expecting it. This was 414 years after the Assyrian Empire began in 1273 BC, and Babylon was annexed. In this year, King Shalmaneser III ascended the throne of Assyria, a king made famous by the biblical account of King Jehu paying him tribute, a fact now proven on the black obelisk of Shalmaneser. On the obelisk above Jehu's bowing form is the seal of Phoenix. This was also the 42nd reign of the kings of Cusco, a date according to the Peruvian records that was 2,070 years after the beginning of the Andean chronology, which we find in this timeline was 2929 BC, the passage of Phoenix through the inner system before the flood, 138 years. 721 BC, 3174 AM. Phoenix crossed ecliptic in inner system, no records. This was the year the remaining tribes of Israel were conquered by the Assyrians under Sargon II and deported into Assyrian frontiers, where they assimilated with the Germanic tribes under Assyrian domination. This is 138 years before the end of the Age of the Phoenix. 138 years. 583 BC, 3312 AM. Phoenix crossed ecliptic and transited, darkening the sun during a battle between the Medes and Lydians, which was specifically predicted by Thales of Miletus. This is 1,656 years, 414 times 4, after the flood, and ends the Age of the Phoenix. Planet Phoenix would not begin to synchronize into transit alignment again until the last days, with the cursed Earth system ending 2,484 years, 414 times 6 from this date, to 1902 AD, 5796 AM. 138 years. 445 BC, 3450 AM. Phoenix crossed ecliptic in inner system. No records. 138 years. 307 BC, 3588 AM. Phoenix crossed ecliptic in inner system. No records. 138 years. 169 BC, 3726 AM. Phoenix crossed ecliptic in inner system. No records. This is the final year of peace in Judea. For the following year, Antiochus Epiphanes IV of Syria will attempt to eradicate the Jewish religion. He pollutes the temple with pig's blood and holds public executions of Jews who refuse to Grecianize. This is also the last year of Macedonian autonomy, for Rome will dismantle the kingdom in 168 BC. This completes 9 cursed earth periods from Eden, and is 2,070 years after the flood. 138 years. 31 BC, 3864 AM. Phoenix crossed ecliptic, but not in direct transit, causing earthquakes during the Battle of Actium that resulted in 30,000 killed and the ruination of many settlements in Judea. This is 552 years after the Age of the Phoenix ended in 583 BC, when the sun darkened. Had the sun darkened in this year, the legend of the Phoenix would have lived on. This year completes the 7th Phoenix cycle from Eden, 138 years. 108 AD, 4002 AM. Phoenix crossed ecliptic in inner system, no records, 138 years. 246 AD, 4140 AM. Phoenix crossed ecliptic in inner system, no records. The Gothic descendants of the 10 tribes of Israel deported into Assyria and assimilated with the ancient Germans, who migrated into the Roman provincial territory of Dacia and took possession of it, assimilating the Dacians. This is completion of the 10th cursed earth period, 138 years. 384 AD, 4278 AM. Phoenix crossed ecliptic in inner system. No records. 138 years. 522 AD, 4416 AM. Phoenix crossed ecliptic in inner system, unseen from Earth at same time that the Anunnaki planet Nibiru passed through the inner system after 732 years, ascending from the nether regions of the solar system off the ecliptic. This is the only year in human history that both Phoenix and Nibiru visit the inner system together. The full orbital chronology and history of Nibiru is provided in Anunnaki Homeworld. This completes the 8th Phoenix cycle from Eden, 138 years. 660 AD, 4554 AM. Phoenix crossed ecliptic in inner system, no records. This completes the 11th cursed earth period from Eden. Further fracturing of Phoenix' frozen liquid surface creates another strewn field at perihelion, spread out in a 7-year train of debris called the Vials of Phoenix Comet Group. Their orbital chronology will be covered later in this book. 138 years. 798 AD, 4692 AM. Phoenix crossed ecliptic in inner system. No records. 138 years. 936 AD, 4830 AM. Phoenix crossed ecliptic in inner system. No records. 138 years. 1074 AD, 4968 AM. Phoenix crossed ecliptic in inner system. No records. This is completion of the 9th Phoenix cycle from Eden, 552 times 9, as well as 12 cursed earth periods, 138 years. 1212 AD, 5106 AM. Phoenix crossed ecliptic in inner system. No records. 138 years. 1350 AD, 5244 AM. Phoenix crossed ecliptic in inner system. No records. 138 years. 1488 AD, 5382 AM. Phoenix crossed ecliptic in inner system. No records. This is completion of 13th cursed earth period from Eden. 138 years. 1626 AD, 5520 AM. Phoenix crossed ecliptic in inner system. No records. This is the 10th and final Phoenix cycle of 552 years. 5520 AM is 552 times 10. Phoenix cycle system ends because another 552-year period cannot fit into the 6,000-year timeline, but there remains only 480 years left. In this year of 1626 AD, New Amsterdam was founded after the area was purchased from the Manhattan Indians by the Dutch. This city would later become New York City, the financial epicenter of global economy and seat of the United Nations. Therefore, New York was founded in the final year of the Phoenix system. Remember this fact. 138 years. 1764 AD, 5658 AM. Phoenix crossed ecliptic in inner system in a partial transit in May. It was seen by many to the naked eye as it covered 1/5 of the sun's surface. Hoffman of the Royal Astronomical Society in England reported that he viewed it through a telescope. He concluded that it was a gigantic object in space that partially passed over the surface of the sun as seen from Earth, moving on a north to south trajectory passing over the ecliptic. This is the first sighting by modern scientists. That a huge fragment of Phoenix has already detached and spread out along an immense train is revealed by the fact that in 1762 AD, August 9th, a massive spindle-shaped body was seen through telescopes to pass over the sun's surface and did not disappear until September 7th. Its blurred perimeter revealed that it still had frozen liquids burning off it at perihelion. It was viewed by M. Rostand of Basile, France, and by M. Crost in Germany at Seoul. More asteroid comet debris was seen in 1763 AD and 1764. The fact that these astronomers saw this object in 1762, located on different areas of the sun, reveals that these fragments are closer to the Earth than the sun. This is demonstrated in 1763 AD when a large object cast a shadow of black darkness on London, England on August 19, 1763. The appearance of Phoenix, on schedule, unveils clearly that this is a planetary-sized object with a fixed orbit and, like comets, planets can orbit the sun vertical to the ecliptic. In fact, as shown in Anunnaki Homeworld, the planet Nibiru also traverses the ecliptic in this same way. Phoenix was anciently responsible for the volcanic activity of Mount Vesuvius that buried the settlements of Italy in 1687 BC. This same volcano later entombed Pompeii and Herculaneum in the same manner, so we are not surprised to learn that in 1764 AD, Johann Joachim Winckelmann published his History of Ancient Art, which covers the secret excavations that were being conducted at the sites of the Roman cities of Herculaneum and Pompeii. Many of the relics and artwork found in these buried ruins are still withheld from public view because of their sexually explicit nature. In the train of Phoenix, 4 years and following, smaller fragments entered Earth's atmosphere. A particularly large one in 1768 AD illuminated North America and was named Panther Passing Across by the Shawnee people, the same name given to a baby born that exact night, who would later be famously known as Tecumseh. As Phoenix appears to be breaking apart, this is also what we will find 138 years later. 138 years. 1902 AD, 5796 AM. This year is the end of the cursed Earth system of 414-year periods that began with the destruction of pre-Adamic Earth in 4309 BC, this being 6,210 years, 414 times 15. This year is 2,484 years, 414 times 6, after the end of the Age of the Phoenix, which ended in 583 BC, 3312 AM, when the sun darkened, predicted by Thales. This year is 4,140 years, 414 times 10, after the deluge in 2239 BC, 1656 AM. Prior to this date, the Great Seal of the United States was that of the Great Pyramid and the Phoenix. And now, in this year, the U.S. government quietly changed the Phoenix to the Eagle. This parallels the historical fact that Rome's earliest symbol was that of the Phoenix, only later changing it to the Eagle. The symbol seems to be attached to the concept of empire. The United States, Rome, Assyria, even the ancient Hittites had a double-headed phoenix. The timing of the change from phoenix to eagle hints that there are those in America who knew the significance of the fateful year of 1902 AD. What occurred was not so much an ending, but a startling beginning. Our review of 1902 AD actually starts with 1901. In 1901, the Code of Hammurabi was excavated, an expansive text of Mesopotamian legislation commemorating the Anunnaki, an artifact about 38 centuries old. Also in this year, the Cincinnati Astral Society published a list of predictions. Among them was one that a gigantic passenger steamliner would sink between Britain and the U.S., with a loss of life because of a shortage of lifeboats. This, of course, happened in 1912 with the Titanic disaster. Another prediction was that a new comet would come into view from the southeastern sky, far away from the ecliptic, a strange comet that actually orbits an unknown planet, and that an epidemic of disease would follow. Those who study the quatrains of Nostradamus assert that the prophet told of tremendous changes that would begin in the world after 1901 AD. At this time in Scotland was experienced a minor earthquake. In 1902, on schedule, Phoenix almost transited, but did not. So close to the sun, like so many times before, this alien world was invisible from Earth. However, a comet appeared as predicted in 1901, and evidence that it orbited Phoenix and not the sun is found in that it broke apart and was photographed as it fragmented. The comet was named Morehouse. Its demise was due to immense gravitational stress between its planetary nucleus, Phoenix, and the proximity of the sun. A volcano erupted at Santa Maria, Guatemala, killing 1,000 people, and Mount Pelée on the French Caribbean island of Martinique exploded, sending a searing hot wavefront of gas into the city of Saint-Pierre. It incinerated the buildings and killed 30,000, as well as destroying most of the ships out in the harbor. Only one man survived inside town, a prisoner in a cellar already condemned to die, and one man outside the town, both extremely burned. This is a modern Sodom and Gomorrah story. Augustus Selbanus was the prisoner who survived, like Lot of the Book of Genesis. St. Pierre was a Catholic city. In March, a Protestant missionary entered St. Pierre named George R. Penney, who went from home to home sharing his faith and trying to sell Bibles. This enraged the local Catholic priests, for the Catholics had long maintained the practice of disallowing Bibles to the common peoples, strictly controlling through Mass what the people learned about the Word. The priest, using the local authorities, threatened Mr. Penny with his life if he did not leave St. Pierre immediately. He complied, and the priest gathered up all the Bibles confiscated from Mr. Penny and the people who bought them, and burned them in the town square. On Easter Sunday, this same priest tied a Bible to a sacrificed pig and dragged it down the streets of St. Pierre as a message to all that Protestant Bibles were not acceptable. The morning after this was done, the top of Mount Pelée began smoking and rumbling, and continued until May 9th, when at 7:52 a.m., the top of the volcano exploded, capsizing ships out in the harbor and incinerating the city. From November 12, 1902, through February 1903, hundreds of millions of tons of a peculiar dust rained upon Australia, the Philippines, southern China, the south of England, Belgium, Holland, Germany, Austria, over the Atlantic Ocean, Switzerland, Russia, the Pacific Ocean, even raining mud over Tasmania. In England alone, it is estimated that 10 million tons of this strange matter fell across the land. This raining of earth has no precedent on this scale. Scientists of the time tested the dust and determined that it contained 23 to 26% organic matter. In Australia, 50 tons of red mud per square mile rained in many parts. This extraterrestrial dust is the material trapped in the frozen surface of Phoenix, which darkened the sun in ancient times. Phoenix is fracturing badly and falling apart. This is further exhibited on May 20th, 1903, when the Lowell Observatory published that an object was seen on the terminator of Mars, which on May 27th had moved and was determined to be a dust cloud in space. On September 21st, 1903, autumnal equinox, an eclipse darkened the sun at 9/10 totality, but as London and all of England was overcast with clouds, the astronomers of the day never explored the matter. All that is known for sure is that this unusual darkness could not have been the moon. This strange shadow appears to have only been over England, and maybe parts of the Atlantic, which hints that it was caused by the transit of a locally passing object near Earth, part of the detritus train of Phoenix. The author Charles Fort, a meticulous and avid researcher into these unusual astronomical anomalies, in 1919, in his Book of the Damned, wrote, "I think myself that in 1903 we passed through the remains of a powdered world, left over from an ancient interplanetary dispute, brooding in space like red sentiment ever since." The crimson color of the dust is yet another clue as to its link to Phoenix, which is connected to the ancestral traditions of the moon turning red like blood. The following year, 1904, boasted more fragmentary evidence of a disintegrating planet. A meteorite collided into Alta, Norway, its surviving weight being 198 pounds. A mysterious blight from an unknown origin killed virtually every chestnut tree in America. On April 15, 1904, an extreme darkness was so black that people could not go out in the open. It lasted for 10 minutes over Wimbledon, England, on a clear day. Then, 221 days later, for about 15 minutes that began at 10 a.m., intense darkness covered Memphis, Tennessee, with many people screaming that it was the end of the world. Neither of these were a result of the moon's transit, but these events and others were caused by closely passing bodies that cast their expansive shadows over the surface of the earth. Aside from the annals of little-known astronomical records, 1902 was a powerfully important year, further impressing upon us the fact that it was also a terminal year, being the end of the cursed Earth chronology. It was also the year Queen Victoria of England died, her reign long recognized by the world as the height of British international prestige and dominance, a reign of 65 years. England waned, the United States waxed, and the newly emerging empire altered its seal from the phoenix to the eagle of imperial Rome. The Census Bureau was founded in New York in this last year of the cursed Earth chronology. Also in New York, the Fuller Building was erected, the city's first skyscraper at 21 stories. This was, in 1902, the tallest building in the world made by modern men. The Eiffel Tower is a metal construction, not a true building. The Fuller Building is a one-of-a-kind structure shaped like a vertical triangle, and it still stands proudly as a wedge between Fifth Avenue and Broadway. The structure was built exactly 2 Phoenix orbits, 138 plus 138 years, after New York was founded, originally called New Amsterdam, in 1626 AD. Also in 1902, Washington, D.C. was planned out and the capital scheme reworked, employing Masonic designs. This is the seat of power in the United States. As relating to ancient history, not only were the 7 tablets of the Enuma Elish translated into English from Akkadian cuneiform concerning the Anunnaki and the destruction of an earlier civilization before Eden, which began the cursed Earth system in 4309 BC, but in this year was also discovered the Hypogeum on Malta, a vast subterranean complex abandoned in 1687 BC, when Phoenix darkened the sun and quakes destroyed civilizations around the world. Here is a stunning example of synchronicity. Sponge divers off the coast of Crete in 1900 discovered the remains of a Greek shipwreck which produced relics from the 1st century BC. In May of 1902, an archaeologist first noticed a metal wheel and a lump of pressed debris from the shipwreck that later came to be known as the Antikythera computer. So incredibly complex is this mechanism, with its precision-cut differential geared wheels of various sizes, that it is evident that the technology required to manufacture the metal computer is more sophisticated than the mechanism itself. The computer was made sometime after 713 BC, which we know because the device employs a year of 365.25 days instead of the prior 360 days before the near planetary collision of 713 BC, see Anunnaki homeworld, which pushed Earth 1 degree further into space, altering the length of the solar year by adding 5.25 days. Zecharia Sitchin remarks that the pointer on the machine may reveal its purpose. The months are inscribed in Greek, and the Antikythera specialist, author Dr. Derek DeSola Price, calculated that the pointer device indicated the year 586 BC. Sitchin believes the close date is 584 BC, but, as this thesis clearly demonstrates, the ancients had no astronomical reason for marking perpetually these years, but had a vested interest in marking 583 BC, as we have seen how it ended the age of the Phoenix. The Greek of Phoenician descent, Thales, may have predicted this sun darkening using this same computer. The science of Aristarchus, who believed that disasters involving the entire world were separated by a period of 2,484 years, is explained by the fact that the sun darkening of 583 BC, 3312 AM, was exactly 2,484 years, 414 times 6, to 1902 AD, which finds a fragmenting phoenix raining debris on Earth 138 years before it will cause a totally earth-shattering cataclysm. The Antikythera computer was so advanced that the user could compute astronomical cycles forward and backward through time. This discovery of the Antikythera computer in 1902 reveals that it is part of the divine design, a sign to mankind to search deeper into history to understand where we are in the divine chronology. This last revelation is the key to understanding the purpose of the Great Pyramid in Egypt. As revealed in Chronotecture, Lost Science of Prophetic Engineering, the arcane monument is a lithic calendar of the archaic past and future, used to calculate time periods forward and backward through history. But the connection 1902 has with the Great Pyramid far transcends this independent fact. This year ends the cursed Earth chronology, and what it begins will astonish you.